name is Mike Goldman, and you've stumbled across a show called On The Mic. Thank you very much for watching. You can watch all of the crazy episodes at onthemic.com. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can like us on Facebook and watch us live stream every Sunday afternoon at 3. Instagram, Mike Goldman Live. We're on iTunes. Find us everywhere. And hey, if you want to get involved in the Patreon side of things, we would love you to get the extra content that we provide and help us make the show. Thank you, Josh, Sam, and Keegan. Sorry, I almost forgot Keegan. You guys do a brilliant job from the Verve Network for cutting it all together and doing those little Instagram stories and letting people know about my little show called On The Mic. Today, a guy we have, he's not a little guy, but 3 facts about this guy, Josh Reid Jones. He is the founder of the Just Be Nice project. He gets a little bit thirsty when you twinkle his nipples. He doesn't even know why. And fact number 3, he's toured the world as a musician. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to On The Mic, Josh Reid Jones.
It really sounds like so many people should just be clapping right now. I'm really
we can edit in the sound effect of people applauding. Josh Reid Jones, yeah!
Awesome.
Listen to that crowd.
It's a big one.
Mate, you're from Victoria in Sydney at the moment in my little Bondi pad. Thank you for coming along. Welcome. We got a mutual friend, Lola Berry, who introduced us and said that you're an interesting guy. Did some Googling, some investigating. You really are fascinated by the Just Be Nice project. Please tell us about it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure. You do have a beautiful home. So basically, the Just Be Nice project, we help people to help people. So my job is to go into organisations or people come and they say, hey, we want to do some good, and I go, cool, let's help you do that in the most effective way and the best way for you.
So people who in the organisation who need help, or you just spot the problems that they have that they probably don't know about?
There's a kind of a big push at the moment for businesses to try and do good. And usually what sort of happens is they just clip a little transaction on the end of their day-to-day business. They'll say something like, and then one day of the year we do this thing, or we just throw a percentage of sales,
we give a check, water to the charity.
Yeah, we do a thing.
We built a well in Nigeria.
Yeah, that's right.
Or we have scholarships for people who can't afford them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's this kind of very transactional relationship with doing good. And
what is the gap there between organisations who obviously think that they're doing the right thing by handing free shit out left, right, and centre, and the people who actually need the help? Is it because they can't find it? I guess a kid somewhere in the Northern Territory wouldn't even know what the word scholarship means.
Yeah, there's definitely...
No offence to the little kids if they're watching.
The little kids. There's a handful of gaps, including just knowledge of what actually a good impact is from the organisation that's trying to do good. We've kind of been sold a pretty shitty, idea about what doing good is. Like, do whatever you do in your day-to-day and then just add a little thing on at the end of it. And I guess what we do is we say, you're really good at something, that's your opportunity to help people doing what you're good at. Not do what you're good at for your job, go to uni, do all this stuff, have this business that does all these things, and then just add a little shitty thing on the end of it, and then say that you're doing the most good you can do.
Actually do the grassroots level. Get your hands dirty.
Yeah,
so you get your hands dirty for them. Have you had anything you've achieved so far that you want to tell us about?
Yeah.
Made any progress?
Yeah. So for instance, it's like taking things like an accounting firm, who would typically not have many opportunities to do stuff, and saying, instead of going and planting trees, because you're accountants, we're going to get you to give us a hand with financial assessments for people that are, under sort of financial duress or having some kind of economic distress in their life. And we need to know what's really going on, because people game it a little bit when they come to you for help. And so the accountants then can sit down and they can run through this with us in a way that we can sit down and say, this is Mike, he needs a hand. Tell us what's going on with Mike's finances.
What kind of person would you typically help?
So one of the tenets of a good impact for us is that it's an inclusive impact, not that it's exclusive. So anybody who needs help, basically, we get referrals from a whole bunch of different pathways. One of the things that's a real blocker to understanding how to do good is that people are really obsessed with one particular kind of thing. Like, I have elbow eczema, so that's my thing that I care about, to the exclusion of nearly all other things. When really we need to do a better job of helping everybody who needs help.
It's funny you mention that. My elbows are really dry at the moment.
It's wintertime, man. So dry.
It is, isn't it? Just oil.
Just
I find
oil,
any sort of coconut
grease,
oil,
any kind of
stem cell.
grease, olive
I
oil.
want to talk about Just Be Nice project a lot because it fascinates me, and I didn't even realize that there was a gap there that needed to be filled, and you're doing that. And I want to talk about your work with the Indigenous communities and so much more about that. But something I want to talk about first. I wouldn't say it's the most important thing, but it's going to be fascinating. Why do you get thirsty when you play with your nipples?
Mate, I wish I knew. It's the weirdest thing. It happens if I do it, and it happens if someone else does it. I don't anticipate it ahead of time. But if you were just playing with the nipples, I would be really keen for a drink. I just get thirsty. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know. Since forever, I remember when I worked it out, and I was like, "Why am I thirsty when this is? What's happening?" Just a hand up the shirt, and it was just a nipple tweak.
Anything for you?
No, it doesn't
do anything.
Doesn't make me thirsty.
It works both ways. You could do it to me too. It would still work.
If anything, it makes me salivate. Does that mean you're thirsty? I don't know.
If I salivate watching you play with your nipples, is that a different thing or the same thing?
That's the end of the show. I got to jump out this window. So you toured the world as a musician with your girlfriend. What do you play? What's the story? Can we hear a bit?
Percussion mostly. Ex-girlfriend. So let's not harp on that for too long. But
Are you single?
no. But
We're getting a lot of people making comments on the Facebook right now saying he has the most amazing eyes. So just so they'll keep watching, just say, I don't want to talk about my relationship.
I don't want to talk about it. Let's private guy. We'll keep that on the down low.
She's a lucky girl.
Thank you. As is
Strictly
yours.
from a man's perspective.
Yeah.
Because you seem like a great guy.
Well, it's a thing. We put on the mask and we wear it.
You toured the world. That must be fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Playing drums.
Music is fun, man. It's fun to get out and do stuff. It's fun to see the world. It's fun to get amongst it and have a crack. So
you played a lot of footy too.
Yeah, played footy. Yep, did all that sort of stuff until I got too busted up to play footy anymore.
From Melbourne AFL, I guess.
That's right, yeah.
You got this stocky rugby league body. Like, I grew up in Sydney and my dad made me play rugby league. I probably should have played AFL, but you grew up in Melbourne, you played AFL, maybe you should play rugby league.
Yeah, dabbled in union. My old man's a Kiwi, so...
Union?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I went to public school, and so it's rugby league in the public schools. They don't play union down...
In Melbourne?
Yeah.
Awesome. So it's catching on in Melbourne?
Well, Melbourne Storm have been so good for so long.
Can't ignore it, can you?
There's a lot of bandwagoners. So everyone's like, it's a winning team, we're on board.
Still a big Storm fan?
Yeah, love the Storm. Yeah.
Were you upset when they cheated against Manly in that grand final?
Mate, there was a lot of cheating going on,
I'm a Manly fan.
Okay.
That's why I'm giving you shit.
But I'm also a Blues supporter, which is strange.
Oh.
Yeah, for a Victorian.
Because you're born here?
No. Just back in the day, I was just a big fan when they weren't getting flogged every single year for a decade.
You're a traitor.
Yeah.
What the hell?
We don't have a team, so
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
had to be someone.
Well, can they have a team? Are there enough people from Victoria to be a part of State of Origin? I don't think there
I
are.
don't think so. I don't think anyone would care either. I mean, people are barely caring now when it's sort of a whitewash most years. So we're doing our best.
All right, let's talk about the Just Be Nice project, and congratulations on finding this niche, this incredible idea. Let's talk from a little kid's perspective who not sure what they want to do with their life and their career. How do you take them through looking towards the trajectory of where they're going to go and what they're going to do, and how they can focus on their goals and to get one of those scholarships or to get something that might be on offer from a big organization?
Yeah, I think the important thing is to go into a community or a person's life and try and understand what they're missing or what they've got from their perspective, not from someone else's perspective, and say, listen, if I was here and I wanted to help a child understand that there is a scholarship, for instance, at a university far away from where they live, and it was for a job that they maybe don't understand or have never seen before, what's in the way of that, and what steps do they need from wherever they are today to where they need to be? Do they need to know how to read and write really well? Do they need a certain level of physical competency? And how can we put together systems and to develop that, for as many people as possible? So usually that involves things like, developing teachers and, enabling them to have the resources within a community or within a school environment to do that. And for the kids, it's, like everything, it's just make sure you get the opportunity to be really good at something. That's where you're going to have the best success. That's where you're going to be able to have the most impact positively, in the world. If you're rubbish at something, you can't really do much with that. I'm never going to bake to save the world. I'm like the worst baker. So
Chewbacca's calling us. Sorry, I should have said turn phones off. Yeah, I'm not a very good baker either.
No, terrible.
But how do you how do you help these kids figure out what they're good at or what their passions are and where they want to go?
It's actually not that hard to find out what people are good at, because it's being good at something is often like it's a process. And so it's enabling people to have the things in front of them that allow them to continue that process. So I might catch a ball really well as a kid, and you go, great, you're catching the ball really well. And if we do nothing else with that person, they're not going to turn into a good footballer. But certainly that's like a great stepping stone. If you then teach them how to run and catch, and you teach them how to drop the ball onto their foot left and right, and you teach them how to handball, and you just keep those things in front of them. And if they pick that up, you go, well, 5, 6, 7 years down the track, this kid's a really great little footballer.
Yeah, so you just got to check in with him and make sure he's on the right path and still studying at the same time. Because I love the way in America with, the college football, basketball, athletics, you've got to get grades to be able to play for the team.
Yep.
We don't have that here. I think that's why we have so many douchebags playing rugby league. I think we need to put something like that in place. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like a balanced upbringing is good for everybody, and I don't blame anybody for not having a balanced upbringing, whether you come whichever side of the tracks you come from, and in the same way that sometimes maybe really clever kids aren't socialized that well. We have really good athletic kids that maybe aren't as educated in the book smarts as well. Identifying those things and allowing people to play to their strengths, but keeping a hand on a balanced, well-rounded experience of the world, however that comes, I think is super important. Really important.
What was it like for you growing up? Did you get bullied? Did you have a good upbringing? You
No.
seem like a well-mannered, good young man that was brought up very well, were you?
I got lucky. I have a wonderful mother, but I grew up in a pretty violent and abusive kind of household as a kid. Yeah, we had a bit of the I guess the once were warriors sort of situation with my old man, and but on the flip side to that, I'm very lucky to have a handful of aptitudes that have served me.
Do you think that's what made you want to help your young kids be the best that they can be now? Is it from that upbringing?
I think
made you realize certain things that you wouldn't do as an adult?
I think what I took from all the things that have happened in my life is that the gift of a tough time is taking that and using it to understand other people's tough times. I'm not obsessed with people who've had the same upbringing that I've had, but rather say that everyone's got their worst, and why don't people get the help that they need when they need it, for as long as they need it, regardless of how they come to need help in the first place.
I like what you said there, about taking something from bad and making it good. We've had on the show a couple of times Dr. John DeMartini. He's written like 40 books, travels the world. And when I say that, I mean literally there's a boat called The World he travels around on. And he lectures about, I think one of the best things that he says is, if you're not thankful for something, then it's baggage. So you're talking about your father, and having a rough time as a kid. You're thankful for that because look at what's going on now in your life and how you're helping so many more people because of that little lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at school when I was like a VCE camp, which is like a HSC camp here, we had a guy come in and he sort of spoke to everyone. He was like, I can tell you 2 versions of my life, and one of them is horrible, and it was full of tragedy and it was really sad. And all this really kind of dramatic stuff happened to him. And he's like, and there's this other version where I, sound like a bit of a wanker because it's so kick-ass. And he's like, it's easy to get people on side with your sad story.
And gratitude helps.
Yeah.
Get over all the horrible stuff. I mean, I've found whenever I've been depressed about something, and compared to a lot of people, I have nothing to worry about. But you see some of the most successful people in the world being depressed. So I think you just need to be thankful for what you've got, right? Listen, talk about, the great things you got happening in your life and program yourself to celebrate your life. But if you're constantly told, this happened in your life, you should feel crap about it, or something happened, 100 years ago to your grandfather, you should constantly be pissed off about it and trying to, right the wrongs of the past. And, it happens, you see it in the Middle East, you see it with so many different people all over the world. They need to be thankful for what they've got and appreciate what's happening and live in the now.
Yeah, and as a community, we need to acknowledge the positive things that happen to people, not just always chase like a sad story to talk about. As a community, when you say, I'm Mike, I've done these great things and I've got these great talents, I should be going, yeah, good on you, man. Not like, oh, that's a bit tall poppy vibes,
In Australia, we have this tall poppy thing. And I got a great way to sum it up. I lived in the US for a couple of years and I was at the crosswalk and I see this amazing Ferrari rock up, and the dude's pumping the music, he's going like this, and my first Australian thought was, look at this douchebag.
Yeah.
And then like 3 people walking past, Americans, just went, all right, nice car, awesome, you know. And that's the difference between the Australian tall poppy psyche as opposed to just celebrating everyone that's successful and doing great things.
Yeah, it really is. And if you keep rewarding, I guess, focusing on the bad stuff, it makes it hard to be grateful. It makes it hard for people to embrace an attitude, I suppose, of appreciation. When, like, if I come in here and say, hey, man, I'm awesome at this, and you say, what a knob, or I come in here and say, hey, my dad, you know, was a bit shit, and you go, oh my God, you know, tell me about it. It's like, well, which story am I going to walk out with and tell everybody all the time?
Yeah.
And how do I then focus on the positive stuff if every time I mention it, people think you're a wanker, you know? So as a community, not just as individuals, we should probably not always encourage that, like, what's the saddest thing that's ever happened to you sort of stuff.
I mean, unless you're an actor and you want to draw on
Yeah,
the
you need
pain
some drama.
and then change to the scene and use that to make the misery happen.
Yeah.
I only say that because I've been doing a little bit of that lately. Not that there's any
Finding some
any
misery.
roles where I have to cry about.
Yeah. Just imagine a lifetime of thirsty nipple playing, you know? It's tragic.
Yeah, just play with that nipple and you'll
Horrible.
start, you'll
It's the worst.
start crying. Please stop touching.
Please stop touching
your
your nipples. I'm sorry.
So you work a lot in Melbourne. Whereabouts in Australia do you travel with Just Be Nice?
All over.
And what have you seen Just Be Nice achieve so far?
Well, I think that our greatest achievement is taking people's skills and showing them that that's how they can do heaps of good. You actually can just do what you're really good at. In terms of, like, for people that are getting help, we go to the same outcome for everybody. We just want to make sure that they're housed, that they're employed, and that they have good mental health. That's the outcome for everybody that we help. So I guess that's kind of the same all the time. And different people start from different places. Some people only need help with their mental health. Some people only need a job. Some people only need a house, and some people need all of those things. And that might take a really, really long intervention with lots of stops along the way. But I think the best thing, one of the greatest things was, you know, even with accountants, like we said before, I remember sitting in a meeting with a firm, and one of the guys goes, oh, finally, someone who acknowledges that accountants can do more than just cut checks. You know, and I was like, well, you know, you got 7 years at, you know, uni and CPA training. You manage however many millions of dollars you're managing in funds. You got, you know, 200 clients. The best thing you can do is not spoon soup at a soup kitchen. You know, you can do more than that. You can do something way better.
Man, that would be the worst possible job in the world. Shout out to Greg Kelly from Williams and Partners in Brisbane. They've been doing my accounts for a long time. And it's
You've
just,
even got to
it's
keep your
something
accountant in Brisbane. It's that bad
just
for you.
hurts my head to even think about it.
Be in another state.
But the amount of people that must accounting, for example, like the amount of people that must ring them every day, just having problems with shit, and their tax departments charging them too much, and their bills too big. I mean, for those people to actually, you know, put the yin in the yang and get out there and do something positive for the world, it must be really hard for them to break out of all that negativity. I'm only just saying things like, I hate accounting.
Because you only call your accountant to complain about stuff. Be
Pretty
like,
much.
dude, what's going on with this check? It's, you know, I want to keep more of it. What's happening?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a fundamental shift in the way that people help people that we're trying to achieve is to move away from that, like, hero moment into like, it's the stuff you can do every day. You know, it's not about taking a whole day to go somewhere and observe disadvantage. It's about being available for, you know, 10 hours a year for me to bring someone in for an hour at a time, and you can help them at the other end of your skills. I mean, I can't do it. You wouldn't do it. You know, like, someone comes in with their tax and you want to help them. You're like, mate, I've got no idea.
But like on my level, I mean, I have people contact me every day. They say they want to be a voiceover artist, or they want to work on television, they want to start up a podcast or chat show, they want to learn how to pick up the ladies. They don't call me for that. I'm always happy to say, oh, you know, these are the voice agents. You know, you need to get your demo together or whatever. And I don't ask for any money for helping people like that. And I feel like it's something that I owe the industry, and something I love doing. I went up to Cairns with an organization called Gilead, and we went into some of the local Indigenous schools, and they have a few programs set up to help Indigenous kids, figure out what they want to do in life, a lot along the lines of what you do. The Shepherd Foundation, I think it's called, up there. It was about a year ago that I went. And the work that they do is great, and it's just mentoring a couple of young kids, and like they follow me on Instagram now, and they message me sometimes, hey, how do I do this, or how do I do that? And I want to know about the feeling that you get from helping people and what you do, as opposed to just getting paid for doing a job, and why other people out there should do something along the lines of this with their 10 hours a year if that's all they've got to contribute to society.
Yeah, I think that
To helping people.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, for me, it's really I'm kind of divorced from the face to face of the doing good bit. It's really easy to get sidetracked when you're trying to help people with that coalface good times bit. It's like running a business and the meetings are fun. Or like, when you go out and you're presenting to people and you're doing that's fun, and your BAS statements kind of suck, and you can kind of like let that lapse a little bit if you really focus on the exciting stuff. Obviously, getting face to face with people who need help is fantastic. I really love being out amongst people.
But it must bring a tear to your eye when you see someone over a couple of years who wasn't really sure what they wanted to do. They had mental health problems. They couldn't figure out where their career was going, and then all of a sudden you've joined the dots for them, and they must be very appreciative.
Yeah, I mean, it is really great. And over years of, especially at-risk youth, I think they're like probably, one of the really rewarding communities to work in. Over a long period of time, you do see a bunch of kids who are rat bags sort of, coming together and working it out and getting some shots, and those things, that really matters, and of course it feels great, to do those things. But for every, 20-minute moment that happens, there's probably 75 bazillion hours of stuff that's not that exciting behind it. So, we try and give everyone a chance to get a hand on it by making it really relevant, making the help really relevant, so that, you're helping people with podcasts, you're helping people with their voiceover stuff. It's super relevant for you.
So you're just promoting being nice and helping the world.
Be nice.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
How did you come about the name? Were you thinking about, okay, I just want to start a business that helps people. Yeah. There's a hole in the market there between people don't know what they want to do. They might have mental health problems and, getting to university or getting the job they want. What were you thinking about it?
I guess the way that it's sort of structured is like in a pyramid with sort of 3 bits, and the base of it is that everyone can just be nice. Like non-verbal kids can be nicer to each other. And then the next step up on this kind of pyramid of impact is to be really good at something. And then the next step up is to do good. And so it was kind of like, well, what's the thing that everyone can do? It can all just be nice. Everyone can be a bit nicer and take ownership of that themselves. And not everyone can be really good at something and have heaps of impact. The numbers dwindle towards the top. So if we called it just have a big impact group, it'd only work for a few people.
Yeah.
That
works for everything. Works for
just
kids,
be nice, works for everybody.
CEOs, bosses of companies.
That's right.
You mentioned that you mentioned you had a rough childhood. You might have been bullied a little bit at school.
A little bit. I used to tap dance and had a big afro and used to read books at lunchtime and stuff. So yeah,
that was one of the facts that you didn't tell us that we could have mentioned.
Yeah.
Is that when you figured out that your nipples make you
That's
cry?
right. Just a little
make you thirsty.
Yeah.
So when you're a kid getting bullied, obviously you take positive out of that. So you wanted to start this Just Be Nice organization. So maybe a kid will hear about Just Be Nice and think, okay, I'll just be nice for a change.
Yeah.
What do you think about the zero bullying in schools, zero tolerance of bullying in schools?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a interesting relationship, I think, with bullying, because I'd come home from whatever went down or, that sort of thing, and Mum would go to me. The first question she'd ask was, what did you do? She knew I was a mouth.
So it's your
clever
fault.
Kid.
Yeah. Same with me.
Not that it was my fault, but just like, come on, beatings don't just fall out of the sky usually, and
they do.
Sometimes they do. But, the fact was, most of the time I was being a little mouth, and then someone who wasn't a mouth but was bigger than me would have a crack. And she'd say, look, just laugh at when they call your names and whatever, just go along with it. And I literally remember the first time that a guy called me Bush, because I had a big afro, and I had a million nicknames, Curly Sue, Ronald McDonald, whatever, they just yell it. And it used to upset me.
But you a ringer?
No, just an afro.
Oh, okay.
You don't need to be that specific when you're a kid. You can just pick a thing and pick on
anything.
it. Anything. Oh, nose face. Nice nose on your face, nose face.
Stop it.
So,
didn't mean you had to bully me.
But I remember laughing one time. They go, oh, they call me Bush. I said, all right, call me Bush. And the guy's face literally was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, go ahead. No, well, this is no fun.
That's cool. Nickname. Thanks. It doesn't mean anything. Water off a duck's back.
Yeah. And that was a big deal. So I think like when we, what we're encouraging all the time when the conversation about bullying at the moment is really focused on, have you been bullied? Do you feel bad? My experience in communities and with people who get in trouble with bullying is they're often having a tough time themselves.
Yeah.
And we're punishing people that often have other things going on.
Yeah.
Rather than encouraging kids who just to learn a lesson that sometimes people say shitty things to you. be better than that and build character yourself.
You never know what that person is actually going through.
Horrible
at
things
home.
can be happening at home, And
Like I remember, I might have been a bit of a smart ass in class, and I might have, been a bully to other kids, and they were bullies to me as well. But at the time, my parents were getting divorced, and punching each other and carrying on. All sorts of horrible things were happening, and that people didn't know what was going on in my life. So you never know what's going on with the kid's life and why he's saying certain things or where he's getting it from.
Yeah, absolutely.
It comes back to the parents in a lot of ways. And I find it incredible in today's society. It's so hard to adopt a child, but any lame brain idiot can go and have a kid.
Yeah. It's an interesting sort of variation on like mandatory sentencing, which also doesn't really work. Like if you just you said something mean, you're instantly a terrible person and you're going to get in trouble. It sort of prevents the investigation into why you're acting up in the first place. And that's not a good lesson for people to learn, because it makes it all about the person who's been bullied, and it gives bullies power that way. Because, if I just keep telling you, hey, Mike, feel good about yourself regardless, feel good when you're a little kid. It works when you're a parent to make you feel good, because I'm the most important person in your life. So when I tell you to feel good, you do. Problem is, when you get a little bit older, the parent is no longer the most important person or the most important voice in your life. And what I've actually taught you is feel how people tell you to feel. So all of a sudden you fall in love with Emma at age 12, and Emma says, you're the worst. Go run away from home and move to Queensland on a bus because you're a loser. You've learned your whole life to listen to what people tell you to feel. And as your parent, I say, no, don't feel bad, Mike. You're a good guy. And you're like, well, it doesn't matter what you say because I love Emma and she's the most important thing. And that's a terrible lesson for kids to learn. Like, what you need to learn is like, hey, if you do a bad thing, feel bad. Don't do it again. And feel good that you didn't do it again. Build that up yourself. Get an identity that is predicated on what you do every day and work on that. And then when someone says, something really completely stupid like, Mike, your big blonde afro is ridiculous.
I know you are, but what am I?
Yeah.
That's not my only comeback.
You just go, well, I don't even have one. So that's a stupid thing to say. And when someone says something else to you, it's the same process.
Don't take it on board.
Yeah.
Just be your own person.
Yeah.
Back to the bullying thing, and there's a lot of schools now that are saying there's zero tolerance, and they'll kick a kid straight out. We're talking about how you never know what that kid's going through at home, what problems they're dealing with, and sending them home to more shit and more time on their own to go and shoplift or graffiti or do horrible stuff. It's not good.
Yeah.
So there's all these crazy lefty people that are saying, zero tolerance. You can't even tell someone that they've got funny hair.
Yeah.
It's just completely wrong.
I feel like there's the solution is in support for all people. The person who's obviously really affected by it needs support to understand, like, hey, don't listen to this idiot and let's work on these things. And then the person who's saying these things needs some help to understand, why that's not a good thing to do and find out why you're actually acting up in the first place. It's really easy to change people's actions. You can make a rule, you can do that thing, you can boot people out, you can remove them. But changing attitudes takes a long time, takes a lot of engagement. And that's where we're missing that piece a lot. So you drive down the freeway, you slow down under the bridge because there might be a camera there. But it doesn't fundamentally change your attitude about doing 106 on a freeway. You just change your action because there's a speed camera there. There's the same sort of thing with this stuff. Like people go, I won't tell Mike he sucks to his face, but as soon as he walks off, I'll tell him he sucks. And
or write it in the comments section below.
Right, that's it. We'll just tweet at him or just say that thing. And that makes it difficult because as soon as there's a crack and it looks like it's okay to say it to your face, bang, and you are just totally unprepared for it because you thought we'd stopped all that, but we hadn't. We just moved it to a darker corner of the room,
So when you're working with these Indigenous kids or underprivileged kids, I'm interested to know about the Indigenous kids because, like, being a white guy, how do you tell them how to live their life? Do you find that sometimes they're a little bit submissive?
I don't really,
or dismissive.
I don't really.
Sorry, can I say that again? That was shit.
Yeah.
Do you find when you're working in Indigenous communities that they're a bit dismissive because you're a white guy coming from the city telling them what to do, and how do you win their trust?
It's a big issue. There's been decades of, I guess, abuse of trust in Indigenous communities in particular. So it's not the color of your skin that dictates whether or not they trust you. It's whether or not you actually there to actually do something, and you're prepared to invest in the long term, and you don't sort of oversell what you're there to do. What a lot of people do is get an idea about something, pop in for a minute, and then leave. And that has happened so many times that it takes a long time to earn the trust. The way that we do things, I'm comfortable with that. That's fine. My old man is, I guess, has an Indigenous New Zealand background, which is not dissimilar, in some respects to Indigenous Australian sort of situation. But never have I been in a room with Indigenous people or in a community with Indigenous people and they've said, justify why you care because you've been through the same thing. They just want to hear. They just want to, someone to listen and pay attention and address their concerns as their concerns, like everybody does. It's the same for everybody. The difference is they weren't even allowed to vote in the country until the 70s, basically, and so they're behind the eight ball in a lot of regards in terms of representation. At a level that informs policy and gets things done. And there's been a very sort of paternal sort of relationship between the broader Australia and the Indigenous Australia, which has been misused. Like they've been treated pretty poorly for a long time.
So whereabouts in Australia do you work with these Indigenous kids?
Wherever they are, so all over the place. Like I was saying,
so you got a team of people, or is it just you?
Yeah. So what we do as well is work with existing organisations and augment their capacity. So you might have an organisation that does a really good job of, say, mentoring or providing notepads and pens and stuff to people or to a community, but that's not solving anything by itself. It's like trying to build a house and only paying a plumber. You need the carpenter there, and you need a flooring guy, and you need a roofer and a sparky, and they need to come.
You need a team. Yeah.
You need a team, and they need to come at the right time, and they need to be paid what they need to be paid, and the end goal needs to be clear and sort of managed by a third party. That's what we do. So we go in and augment the capacity of a school to do some other things. They might not have access to information or certain people to come and work with the kids and teach them about what being a lawyer is, or blah 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 blah.
So it's mainly in low socioeconomic areas, and you're telling them about things that they would know about there in the city that they could do, and they could look for that new career. When I was in Cairns, I was talking to a lot of people at the Indigenous Health group there, because I was with this company called Gilead, and they have the cure for hepatitis C, the AIDS vaccine, the Zika virus vaccine, and so many things. Incredible organisation, do some amazing work. And the doctors and nurses that work there and the Indigenous elders were saying whenever they train a young Indigenous kid to be a doctor or a nurse, a lot of the time they end up saying, well, I'm out of here. I don't want to be in this place anymore. And they find it hard to get people to go to those regional areas to work. Do you find that same thing?
It's hard to get people to go to regional areas for anything. There's been like a flood of people from rural areas into urban areas in almost every developing country or developed country on the planet at this point in time. So there is challenges around that, but certainly for me that's not a barrier to going in and doing work there or attempting to get people out. Difference is it's just not a lot of spots for people. But part of that also is that we don't just work with low SES communities. Like I've done work, say, at Melbourne Grammar School, which is about as sort of the other end of the scale as you can get. It's just you're just working on different things. They have a different set of issues, and they need understanding the other direction as well. They need to understand that it's not just a matter of, hey, just work harder and you can do good as well. And why don't you just go and take all these opportunities that we know exist? So
they've still got to learn to be nice.
That's right. They've still got to learn to be nice, and they've got to learn to deal with life, and they've got to develop it's no one's fault that they are missing a particular context. If you grow up in a really low SES environment, you're missing a whole bunch of context that people on the other side, of the tracks, so to speak, that they have. But likewise, if you have a really privileged, resource-rich upbringing, it's not your fault that you don't get what it's like to not have that. So
do you go to those kids and say, hey, listen, you guys have got it pretty good.
Yeah.
You better make the most of this because there's people who don't have anything like what you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you stand in a room full of those kinds of people and I ask the question, like, what do you think when you think of opportunity? They almost invariably say things like, education and a job and stuff like that. And the thing is, you're really poor at recognizing opportunity you've always had. So when they say that, I say, well, shoes are an opportunity, but you only know that if you've ever not had shoes for a week, you know, and then you're like, yeah, I've totally recognized that because, you know, that sucked. It was embarrassing. It was hard. My feet got cut up and it was terrible. If you've always had shoes, you don't even recognize that that's a big deal.
So you're basically teaching those kind of privileged kids to know what it's like if they were underprivileged.
Yeah, to give them tools to better understand that context.
Maybe take them to some of those other areas so they can see and appreciate what they've got.
Yeah, sometimes that's a part of a lot of their curriculum. Yeah, that's a part of a lot of their curriculum. But before we're going to take them somewhere, we want to teach them how to understand things even better than just going and observing them. Like, take the moment to give them the tools to understand from someone else's experience instead of going and seeing someone and going, well, I think this then because I've seen X. It's about saying, well, there's actually a few more steps you can do to better understand their situation when you do eventually go and maybe see it at the same time. I mean, if you don't understand algebra, there's no point taking you somewhere where they're talking about it.
I have no idea about algebra. How do you give 2 pieces of fruit
X
that equals X amount of onions times Y potatoes? That's my brain
Obviously,
to think
Pythagoras.
about
It's Pythagoras
it.
every time.
Mr. Farnsworth at St. Paul's High
Failed.
School in Manly. Most of the time I'd walk into class, I go, yeah, g'day, mate. Here we go again. And he'd send me out before I even say anything because he knows that I just had that smart-ass look on my face. Is there something that you tell these kids in general whenever you go and work with them, the first 3 things you can do to be nice or how you can be nice? Like, how would you lay it out for them and tell them exactly what you're there to do?
Yeah, so when we're talking about being nice, it's about everyone gets to define their own sort of version of that, I suppose, and it's about sticking to it, really. So the simple things around manners and stuff, like say thank you, and you can say thank you very much, and that's a little bit nicer. You can ask people how they are. I mean, when you're driving, you should wave every time. You should wave every time.
Why do people not wave?
That's the worst.
When you've let them in?
Just wave.
Well, you travel all over Australia.
Yep.
Where do they wave the most?
Country somewhere.
Yeah, but in the
But
cities,
in the
they
cities,
don't.
there's not as much waving.
I think Sydney would be the worst.
Sydney's the worst.
No one waves in Sydney. If anything, they're waving with one finger.
But also you need to wave 3 kilometres before you get on a ramp, because if you don't make the right decision 3 kilometres earlier, you're going to miss it in the first place.
It's getting to the point where you almost have to do hand signals
Hand
as well
signals.
as indicate, so people will actually let you in.
It really drives me nuts.
And it's like, why won't people just let you in? Why do they get so frustrated that little section is going to hurt the rest of their day by letting someone in?
Or if you're trying
I
to-
understand if someone's, up the side of the road where they're not supposed to drive in a bus lane and then just cutting in because they're in a hurry. But that, like we said earlier, you never know what that person's
You
going
don't
through.
know.
In life. Just let them in. Take a deep breath. Do you think it's because people get frustrated quicker and easier in a city where, inflation's going through the roof, house prices are so expensive, they're not earning enough money?
Yeah, I think all of those things contribute, absolutely. The financial stress is a really big one for a lot of people. And obviously if you live in Sydney, you're probably enjoying some degree of financial stress. It's one of the most expensive places to live. But I also think it's just people letting other things affect what makes them happy, instead of saying I'm happy because I'm a good person because I always wave. And even if I'll always let them in, I'll always stop, I'll do that because it matters to me to be that kind of person, instead of being like, someone inconvenienced me, this is the worst. And it's like, well, you're putting too much on everybody else, and you'll never be able to control all of that. It'd be a nightmare.
That's a kind of a Buddhist principle, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there is certainly some element to that.
Are you religious?
No, I have a degree in philosophy, and so I studied a bunch of that stuff at uni. We did a lot of various religious studies in the 7 years of uni or whatever it was, and but I don't believe in like a monotheistic kind of interventionist God, but I definitely think that if you're good and and positive, that you bring better energy to yourself.
What goes around comes around.
Yeah,
but
generally.
I like what you said there about you know who you are, know yourself, and if you see someone stressed out, don't take that on board as something that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I sort of tread somewhere between Buddhism and Stoicism in that regard.
What's Stoicism?
Stoicism is like it's an ancient, I guess, Mediterranean philosophy. Couple of, if you've got a chance to read maybe Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, who you might remember from the Gladiator movie as the guy that dies and has that horrible son.
Yeah.
it's about taking responsibility
What,
largely.
the actor wrote this book?
No, the guy that it's based on. So
Oh,
he
okay.
was
I
a real
didn't
Roman
know it was a
emperor.
true
Yeah,
story.
Commodus is a real guy. The horrible brother.
I didn't
and
know that Gladiator was real.
yeah,
Mind blown.
it was
Wow.
worth it. Just today was totally worth it just for
Yeah.
that. So
Oh, I'll watch it again now.
Marcus Aurelius, big deal, Stoic, learned from a bunch of people as well. And there's a handful of very significant Stoics that have written extensively from back in the day. But it's really about taking responsibility for how you feel and what you do, and not letting the world ruin your life.
Run your life.
Yeah, or run it. Just go, look, there's no good or bad. There just is. And my attitude is kind of what makes the difference. And if you can go through life like that, I mean, it can be hard. It can be a little bit cold sometimes for some people. But I'm a pretty rational person, so it really resonates with me, and I sort of take that attitude a lot. Helps me get through people being
You mentioned
terrible.
meditation before. Do you meditate?
So look, I'm not very good at meditating. I try and be present in the moment of things. And that's hard enough for me, as opposed to sitting down and trying to be just by myself. I just try and enjoy things for what they are.
People have trouble being present in the moment
Yeah.
because there's so much going on. Not just in your phone, because you've got 20 apps open with 50 different people messaging
12
you
tabs.
on all of the different apps, and all of the other shit that's going on in your life, the bills to pay, the phone calls to return, the emails to return, and it's easy to just sit there and be having a conversation with someone, but you're actually thinking about something else, like our little kids are on their phone and talking to their mum or whatever. But being present and focused in the now, in the moment, is something that has helped me figure out what to do and where I'm going with my life, definitely, because I found out I was getting caught up with a lot of shit that was going on around me. And having a brain working on, TV and radio, because right now, the cameraman didn't show up today, so I've got this camera going.
You're doing great.
Going. I've got the audio recording over here at the same time, just adjusting the levels, and at the same time trying to focus on what you're saying. So our brains can sort of be caught up with other stuff, but not right there in the moment.
Yep.
And if people can figure out how to do that more, and I don't meditate a lot, but occasionally I do, and I find the times that I do where I just shut my brain down and don't think about anything some people probably think I don't think about anything all the time, and I'm just
For 20 years, for the last 20 years.
There's nothing going on around there but just flies or something in that weird brain. Someone called
The
me
monkey with the cymbals just clanging away in there.
Someone called me the other day the world's first living brain transplant donor. But the more you can clear your mind and not think about anything just for 5 minutes a day, it's incredible the difference it makes. Even when you go to sleep, you're thinking, your brain's going, but you just need to shut it down, and it helps.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, it's something that a lot of people are finding very useful now. Certainly, there's a lot of apps and things around it, and in the mental health space, a lot of talk about it.
There's a few apps I've had a crack at.
Yeah.
There's what is it? Calm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Calm.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just can't handle listening to that lady.
You could be one of those guys.
Now,
You could just,
I want you to close your eyes and just focus on your breathing. And there's another one, I can't remember what it's called. It's called Headspace.
Yeah,
or something.
Headspace, yep.
There's a dude on there. He's like, hello, welcome to Headspace. How you going? I just think any moment he's going to start trying to sell you something really cheap at a $2 shop.
Wait for the guy,
Just
Richie
relax.
Music.
Why aren't you relaxing? What's your fucking problem, hey? Freaking relax. So I just find that rather than listening to any of those apps, which have gone off now,
Yeah.
is just got to work this perineum, I think it's called. It's a muscle in here that is perineum. No, the perineum's down the bottom.
That's your
I think
gooch.
the pineal.
Yeah, it's the gooch. It's the gooch. It's the gooch in the middle of your forehead.
The pineal gland, not the perineum.
This I have to work my perineum to relax at night. I don't need a nap anymore.
It's so relaxing. I highly recommend trying the perineum. No, the pineal gland. Apparently, there's a muscle in here that it's the Egyptian eye.
Yeah, it's the third eye. Yeah.
Not
The fourth eye, which is your perineum, just between there,
I
the
feel
taint.
like when I focus on nothing, that looks like I'm doing right now, it's like it's helping me clear my mind and just relax it more.
I think in the model for sort of happiness that we prescribe and we use to develop people better, focus is one of the 4 things that's really important, and an ability to focus directly affects your ability to be happy and feel good. If you're scattered, it's like impossible to feel good. If you just got a million things going on, and how can I have a good relationship? How can I do well at work? How can I enjoy a moment of any description? So I think that meditation time, that, perineum time, just gives you space to just, to then maybe be able to focus later on, which really makes a big difference to feeling good and enjoying
People
yourself.
have too many things going on.
Yeah.
They can just focus on a few things. It makes life so much easier.
Yeah, because you're shit at 50 things. Like, you're not even doing a good job of the 50 things. That's a massive problem for people.
But that goes back to people figuring out exactly what they want to do in their life. Because if they're not doing exactly what they want, then they're going to get sick, and they're not going to be happy, and the people around them aren't going to be happy. So find the things that you really want to do with your life, and just do them. And one of the best ways to find it is by asking yourself a few questions.
Yep.
I think, like, ask yourself what you think about a lot of the time, what things you might be Googling a lot.
Jesus, perineum's back.
Just things that are around your home that you have in your space, and if they have nothing to do with the job that and the life that you're living, then you need to change things. I've spoken to a few friends about this, and this is a lot of Dr. John DeMartini's course that I did a couple of weekends ago, which is amazing. I highly recommend it. If anyone wants to find out more, go to drdemartini.com, and quick plug for him. But it's just about. And actually, on that website, there's a values finder where you basically go on there and you write all the things down that you're interested in your life and what you're focused on. Color coordinates everything and into different groups. And I highly recommend that any of the kids or people that you're talking to try it, because it's a real eye opener.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, also just stuff that you're good at, you're always going to enjoy it more. Like knuckle down and attempt and see things out. This kind of, sometimes I think people are looking for something that feels good all the time, and there just isn't a thing like that. Everything that's good, or there's like this kind of balance between like, oh, you got to hustle, you got to work really hard, and then there's these other things like, but feel good all the time by doing what you love. And it's like, well, I mean, even though you love your kids more than anything, because I'm not a parent, but I see it, they still drive you nuts, and you still have tough times with them, and they're still annoying. So, nothing just feels great all the time, but if you can see through how you feel at any given moment to the point of why you're doing it, then you can get on with it. You can, and it makes it worthwhile. And the better you get at it, the more you get out of it, and the more you can do, and the more opportunities open up. And I don't think we do enough. I don't think we do enough encouraging of people to just be really good at stuff. Just be really good, and we should pat people on the back for being really good and encourage people to be really good.
Don't let anyone tell you what you should be good at or what you shouldn't be good at. If it feels right in your heart and your gut feeling and your brain all at one, just go for it.
Yeah, get after it.
Do it, and you might have to do that shitty job, working in a cafe or whatever because you want to be an actor. But when you act, you're going to appreciate it so much more, and you're going to appreciate that job because it's giving you the money to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that way you'll actually link the shit job with something that you want to do, so it makes a shit job something you enjoy.
That's right. Yeah, it's like training. When you go to the gym, sometimes training sucks. It hurts, and you want to cry, and your muscles ache, and you want to vomit, and it's horrible. But if you just trained in a way that felt amazing every time, nothing would ever happen.
I feel good like after the gym, but before it's like,
nightmare.
Fuck this.
Yeah, that's the point.
I don't want it. And I'll find myself subconsciously just trying to find random crap to do to stop me from going. I go, hang on a minute. How come I'm rearranging the fridge when I just got in my gym gear? Oh, I've run out of time conveniently.
Yeah. A lot of people do that. And that's the thing. You just got to notice it and then not do it. But for everything, like what am I putting in the way of doing what I should be doing to look as great as Mike, or whatever, be super fit, or whatever.
Don't tease me. Hey, so how can people find you online? How can they get involved with the Just Be Nice project and know more about you? Give us your Insta, your Twitter, your Facebook, your Pinterest, and all the kind of places that people can poke and prod you.
Yeah, no Pinterest. Not very good at that. I don't really understand it. But
it's photos.
Josh Reid Jones on Twitter, Josh Reid Jones on Instagram, JBN Project on Facebook and Instagram as well. And I think we have a Twitter, but the JBN Twitter doesn't do much. But
how do people get involved?
They hop on. There's a little thing. You just pop your deets in there. A little questionnaire comes through. We ask you a bunch of stuff about what you do and what you like to do, and we sort of take it from there. And usually someone gets in touch with you, and we have a bit of a chat. And we work a lot with organisations because they sort of have a bit more scale. But when people are interested, there's stuff for people to do. You know, there's always things for people to do, and we try and keep people doing like what they're good at and what makes sense to them. You know, and what they can do for a long time. You know, not just necessarily pop in and just do one thing and then call it a day. You know, we want to make it relevant and keep them going for a long time.
An ongoing plan.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how you do. That's how you get, you know, long-term results.
What is your ongoing plan? What is next for you?
Mate, I'll just literally just keep scaling, just keep getting more people involved, helping more people, changing the way that people help people, and you know, trying to do a better job every day of what we're doing. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Thanks, legend. Thank you so much for being on the mic. It's been an incredible conversation. You're a top bloke, and you're changing the world one step at a time.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Just by being nice.
Just be nice.
Get out there and be nice, everybody.
Do it.
Good on you, mate. Thank
Thanks,
you.
mate. Cheers.